episode of Bullish Chips, where we talk about chips and only chips. More specifically, the Direxion triple leveraged semiconductor bullish ETF, which goes by the ticker symbol of SOXL. Make sure you're following us on X at Bullish Chips, where you can stay up to date with our live entries and exits throughout the trading day. Please remember that we are not financial advisors. We do not offer financial advice, but what we do offer is our view of the price action for SOXL, not only in the current day's price action, but in the past price action, and also where we think the price action will take us in the future. Today is Sunday, July 20th. This is our weekend video where we will go ahead and set our levels and expectations for the week. We'll leave just picking up where we left off on Friday. Looking at the weekly chart, we can see that we did have another two up, but we did close within the previous week's range. We closed below the year flip, which is the 2813. We closed just barely above the weekly broadening formation and the monthly downtrend line. So it appears we are starting to break through resistance, but again, you can see how the candle, it was pretty much a doji, but it's still a fight over these levels right here, this level that we're at right here, to see whether we're going to continue going up or have our pullback. On the daily time frame, you can see the orange broadening formation is formed. So the weekly uptrend is still intact, but the daily trend overall, I would say, is still up, but we have started to make this broadening formation here at the top. Once again, just signaling that we're kind of digesting this move up, making a decision as to whether we're going to continue up or pull back for some type of possible gap close, but at least a little bit more significant pullback, possibly even putting in making Friday a lower high. If we go two down tomorrow, or tomorrow on Monday, that would mark a lower high and a possible change in trend to down. You have to have a lower high and then a lower low to at least start the downtrend. So we will have had the lower high. This was a lower low, but it was following a higher high, so it was creating the broadening formation. So I would look for a low below this low to really signal that we're possibly going into more of a downtrend on a midterm daily perspective, possibly even getting our slight pullback on the week perspective. But for right now, all dips are being bought, but don't want to go too heavy right now in either direction, just because there's not really a direction that's been chose on the weekly time frame. If you want more detail about Friday's price action, you can check out our video from Friday, but just a quick look on the 15-minute. We had the push down, we had a push back up to basically opening print. It was a little bit below opening print, but fell slightly back down and just went sideways into the afternoon. So a little bit like Thursday, where we had the quick dip in the morning. Friday's dip was a little bit more extended, lasted a little bit longer than Thursday's, but Thursday's did push back up and go flat in the afternoon. It went flat in the afternoon on Friday as well. The one thing we can say about Thursday, however, is that we closed above where the open was. So we had the green candle on the day. On Friday, we had the red candle on the day. So let's go ahead and let's look at the weekly one more time, just to make sure that there's nothing that we're missing as far as here was the higher high that we broke weeks ago. And so our next higher high would be right here that we will try and break. This is 3264. So if we do break higher, I would look to at least go to this high, 3264, maybe a little bit below it, maybe a little bit above it, but the next higher high isn't too far off either. So we could make that extended push, this high being the 3615. So remember, we've been talking about the 31 to 32 area, and then 35 to 36 area as well. So those are our targets looking forward. Let's get in here and first let's get our expected move for the week for SOXL. So to do that, let's go to our options chain, and we'll look at July 25th options expiration. And we can see that the expected move is $2.69 for next week. So with the close of 27.33, let's go ahead and bring our notes out. 27.33 was the close, right? That's our close. Expected move is $2.69, so we'll mark that in here, $2.69. So for the week, we don't have a flip for the week yet because it's not open, but the month, we go red at 24.38. Same with the quarter. We are still red on the year, so we actually go green on the year at 28.13. So almost full time frame continuity to the upside, not quite there yet, but let's go ahead and calculate out our expected move so we can move our box on the chart. So we'll take the closing price of 27.33 and add $2.69 to it, and that's $30.02. All right, and then if we take our 27.33 close price and we subtract $2.69, that gives us 24.64. All right, so our expected move is 30.02 to 24.64. So let's go back to our charts. Let's go to our lower time frames here. Again, this one's going to be kind of messy. This is our micro time frame chart, so we're not worried about how messy it looks right now. It will make a lot more sense in a minute here when we mark up for our intraday moves. Oops. All right. Let's get that out of there. Move this up 7 days. And there we have our expected move for next week. Let's go to the other intraday chart. Oops. All right, so we've got those two good. Oops. All right, and you can see the boxes moved over here. You'll be able to see it a little bit better here on the swing chart, but even with that, let's bring it in. Let's go to a smaller time frame so you can see it a little bit better and how it changes. So this was our expected move last week. You can see we went down, almost hit the bottom of it. Never made it to the top, but we stayed within the expected move. So let's go ahead and change this up for this week. You can see how the box is here for last week. It's now over here. It really hasn't changed much, frankly, which, kind of signifies, again, we're in this sideways action, right? Some people call this like a diamond pattern, but, I'm looking at it as a broadening formation. This is a 4-hour chart, so you can see we're just up and down, moving sideways. So this expected move kind of signifies more sideways action. Top end being up here around this daily broadening, low end being down here at last week's low. Actually, that's 2 weeks ago's low because we haven't moved that yet, but you can see it's right here around this like weekly uptrend line. A little bit below it is the daily broadening, so it could always push down a little bit. The months and quarter flip is right here, so a lot of it just looks like a lot more sideways action this week. Again, we're coming to the end of seasonality for tech. Usually the end of July, beginning of August is when money starts to rotate to other parts of the market. August to September is generally the worst performing month to 45 days of the year for tech as well. So, sideways action might actually be best that you could expect just based off of seasonality. But again, we're going to play the chart how it shows us. We need to play it how price action takes us, and go wherever we need to go. Just a reminder, we do have swings for the next Friday, or this coming Friday, I'm sorry. We have some for August 1st. We have some for August monthly expiration, September, November's monthly expiration, January 26 and January 27. So we have calls for all of those expirations. So we are looking to make sure we are staying defensive, buying puts, taking profit on contracts that expire, before November, possibly leaving a September out there, but most likely taking profit on September. Next week through September expirations that we have, just to secure those profits, in case any pullback that we do experience is, lasts longer than expected, or pulls deeper than we expect. But so always going to take our opportunity during the day, though. If the day is bullish intraday, or if we see a chance for a scalp to the upside, we'll still take it as well. But we are watching the downside just to remain, keep a hedge out there. So let's go ahead and go back to the week chart, and let's move last week's high, low, and 50%. Oops, work with me here, think or swim. So here's this, activate. So last week's high, low, high, low, and 50%, right? That way we can tell on the intraday level, when we're on these micro charts where things are at without having to zoom out. We'll remove the opening print for Friday and remove the opening print for the last week. Let's get in here to the day trade chart. Again, let's move the high 50% and low of last week. We get rid of the opening print for last week. For last Friday. Get rid of the opening print for last week. We'll change our 4-hour markers here in a second. Let's just get done with the week. So we will take this. And again, you can see this signifies the low of last week, the 50% of last week, and the high. All right. So we'll stay on the micro chart. Let's get in here to the 4-hour, and we'll move our 4-hour markers. Oh yeah, we need to remove opening print for Friday and an opening print for the week. All right. So let's move previous high a day to its mark. We'll move the 4-hour trigger to the upside to the high of the second 4-hour for last week. Same with the low. Oh, no. That's our after hours. Undo. So the 4-hour trigger down, move that to the low of the second 4-hour of Friday. And our previous low a day will go to the low a day. So just one more chart to do this. And when we get down to the micros and our plan for any intraday trades, we'll see how those all line up. You can also check out our videos on how to set up the charts, how we set up charts, which gives you an explanation of the different horizontal levels, the different colors of the lines that we use to signify, day, week, month, quarter, year markers. So we've got all those, our 4-hour markers moved. Let's go to the after hours and get our overnight high and low at least moved. Again, they'll probably be different in the morning than what they are now, but let's go ahead and move them so it's less work in the morning to do, in case this looks like it'll probably be the low of overnight. I don't know, we may go visit it again, we may not, but but in case it's not, at least we have that signifier. Oh, actually that's during the day, so activate high. Come on, this is after hours. So we may revisit the overnight low if I actually chart it correctly. So here is our overnight low. Let's go to the micro chart. We'll do the same, activate the low, put it on the low of the overnight, and activate that overnight high, get it over here. Okay, so we've got all our 4-hour markers marked. let's go here and take after hours off. Let's go to the 4 hour. So again, sideways action. You can see the range of last week. This is what? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So all of that right in here. So we're still not at an edge to really go long or to go short, right? So we're in the middle of the range. Generally, you like to make your moves on the edges of the range. So, if we were to go up here and make a higher low, we would take that. If we were to move up, pull back, make a higher low above last week's high and continue moving forward, we'd look more at getting longs. That would be more bullish. But until then, it could go up to the top of the range, reject, and come back to the bottom of the range. So we don't want to go long, too heavy for on longs right now. Day trade them, scalp them till we get to this range, to the high of the range. Maybe sell here, at least set your stop losses. That way, if we do turn back around and go back here, we can look at puts. Maybe for the 1st of August to the August monthly, just to give us a little bit of time in case it kind of trickles down instead of falls down. But if we reject off of here, we can look at going back to the bottom of the range. And if we make it to the bottom of the range, we've got to look at possibly coming up and make a lower high to continue down out of the range, right? Or popping down out of the range and come and make up a lower high here below the range. That's definitely bearish, right? If we were to go below the range, come back up and make a lower high below that range, I'm definitely getting puts, right? Even though there are some levels of support, at that point you're looking at possibly closing this gap because you would have probably got close to closing it already if you push through. You still have last month's 50% right here that hasn't really been tested at all, and other than for a few days right here. It could be headed back for a better test. You got a 200-day moving average right here. You got a weekly uptrend line. So there's a lot of things a lot of levels that we can point out that would not surprise us if we went down to these levels, right? So we're not expecting to go down to these levels, but if things take the turn and trigger the rules that we follow that would indicate we're going lower, we can go lower with confidence, and we know where we're going lower to, right? Top of the gap, bottom of the gap, last month's 50%. I would think that's probably as far back as we would pull if we get a good pullback. We could come back even further though. This is the 78.6 of the 2020 low to all-time high, right? So it was resistance at one point, resistance, a little bit of support before we rocketed off of it. We haven't really retested it as a longer-term support. If we come back out here to this weekly time frame, right, we could go 2 down on the week. We've had 7 green weeks in a row, right? We can go back. I believe we had 7 not too long ago. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. After that 7th, we had a red one. Tried to go one more green, but then had a respectable pullback. Other than that, right there, I went back and looked. I couldn't find. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 right there. I think we had another one of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. So we've got plenty of examples of going 6 weeks up. Green, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Plenty of examples of going 6 weeks green, but you can see how that RSI gets up there in the red. Again, not a huge RSI guy, but although we've gone 7, RSI is high. It's not overextended yet, so we have the chance of going higher. But this would be a new record. 8 green weeks in a row. That would be pretty big, especially. I think it was 15, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, so 12 green weeks out of 15. That's a pretty big run, right? So we looked for this pullback previously. We were able to load up there on, grab some more shares. We grabbed some leaps, and they've treated us nicely all the way up. But at this point, you know, expecting that we could see a pullback. I'll be glad for any more movement to the upside. I would gladly take it, gladly continue to hold my swings, but um, just not getting too heavy in new contracts at this point, at least to the upside or downside, really, but just until we make a decision on what we're doing here. So if we go back, let's make our notes for Monday. All right. Oops, we don't want that chart. That's our micros. This is smallest we want. So let's look here at the 4 hour and get our notes lined up for tomorrow. All right, so we had a red 3 and a green 1, a bunch of indecision after a red 1. So indecision, indecision, indecision. This is indecision on a small scale, indecision on a big scale, indecision on a small scale. So just a bunch of indecision within greater indecision of this range right here that we were in for a week, really over a week. All right, so let's look at our 4 hour markers. I'm sorry, not markers, 4 hour targets out here, right? So again, we follow the strat. Look in the description for more information about the strat and Rob Smith and how he basically came up with a very basic way, basically, to map out price action for any stock, any chart. Actually, anything that can be charted through for its price action. You can use the strat as a very simple way to have an indicator as to where price will go if certain triggers are made, right? So 3, 1, 2 would be a reversal down, so, or a strat down. So the trigger would be the bottom of the 1. The bottom of this 1 is 27.13. So we'll mark here 27.13 is our trigger for red 3, green 1, 2 down, right? The magnitude is going to be the low of the candle before this one. So the low of this candle is 26.76. And we'll put some extended targets out here. 26.69, which is last week's 50%, is probably a little bit too close. Let's bring up our micro chart real quick just because we've got other ones. So the 26 level, 26, yeah. So we'll go with this 25.95, right? That would be an extended target. And that's really 27. That's only $1. Yeah, that's probably as much as it would move in a day. If it did go more, we'll just put the 24.91 just to have it on here, see if it matches up with anything else up here. So we do have that lower low at 24.91. Okay, so let's go triggers to the upside. So this would be a 3, 1, 2 up. So the trigger would be the high of this candle, which is 27.50. And this is red 3, green 1, 2 up. Magnitude being the high of this candle, which is 27.90. Alright, let's get some extended targets out here. We'll go 28.13 just because it's the flip, right? We can't really ignore that. And we can see how we rejected off of it previously. Well, not directly off of it, but the body of the candle never closed above it. So and then 28.46 as our next target. And we have the other ones laid out already, right? Don't know that we get to 29, but it could get there. Higher high 27.90. We do have to mark that one here, 27.90. And then we got 31.96, 32.64. Right? 28.46. Oh no, 28.46. Alright, so we've got our higher highs. Now the triggers for the 1 day are the magnitudes of the 4 hour. So let's just move those. Alright, so let's go to the downside first. This would be a failed 2 up, failed 2 up, 2 down, and we'll probably go to the swing chart. So failed 2 up, or it'd be 2 up, 2 down. Magnitude being the low of the previous candle, which is 26.42. 42, and our next target would be, use that 25.84 again, or 25.95. Right, we'll just leave those targets until we get the week on there and get a better look, but that would be a 2 up, 2 down. Right, here's our targets. We've got our lower lows. Right, 24.91, 24.91 is our first lower low, then 24.62, 23.58. So you can see all those match up on the 4 hour and the day. So this would be a 2 up, 2 up on the day. It'd be a continuation, not a strat, so there's no magnitude, just a target. So the high is 27.90, which we already got. 28.13 and 28.44 magnitude. Oh yeah, so no magnitude, right? Only targets, because there's no strat here. So our first target would be, we did close at 27.33, so 28.13. It's almost $1 away, which is significant movement for SOXL at this price. So we'll use that as our first target. 28.46 would be our next target. 28.68.29, right? So the higher high here was 28.46. Just put that there, and 32.64. So let's go to the week. And let's go back out here. So the week trigger is come on now. There we go. 24.91 would be to the downside, which is the bottom of this candle. All right, so get a little cleaner chart here. So 24.91 is the trigger, 24.91 to the downside, and this would be a oops, let's get on the week chart, not the day. 2 up, 2 down, yeah. 2 up, 2 down, with the magnitude of the low of this candle, which is 24.62. 62. And there would be a combo 2 up, combo 2 down if it breaks below the low of this candle. So the next magnitude would be 23.58, which we have here already. All right, our extended target could be the top of this gap, which is 22.63, which we already got. 21.98 is the bottom. All right, so we can leave all of our targets that we had there. This would be a 2 up, 2 down, right? And we can leave our lower lows and whatnot. Okay, so let's go. Let's take the underline off of this because we haven't actually made a trigger yet. So the trigger to the upside, the high of this candle is 28.46. All right, and our target would be this 30.55, which we've already got. So we've already got all our targets still left in here. Higher high is already marked in. So that's really it for our notes on the week, right? So we've already got a plan, right? If we break down, right, we're at 27.33 right now. If we go below 27.13 in that first 4 hour, we can target 27.70 or 26.76 first, right? Not too big of a drop. It's enough. It's enough to expect on a little pullback. Is it enough to get in on a trade? Probably not, especially when sentiment is bullish at this time, and maybe cooling a little bit, but it's still bullish. I believe fear and greed index last week was extreme fear. Extreme greed. We may be just in greed right now instead of extreme, but again, sentiment is more to the bullish side than the bearish side. So again, 2713 to 2676. It's not a lot of magnitude. Maybe you want to scalp it if you want to get multiple contracts and scalp it. Again, I'm not here to tell anyone how to trade. You want trade as you want to trade. I'm just giving you how I would trade. I wouldn't necessarily take that. I would look to make a, if we do make that magnitude, see if we turn back to the upside. At the same time, if we don't go down first, if we go up first and we go above 2750, which isn't really too hard to do. We're at 2733 right now. Then we can immediately target 2790. Is that enough to get in a trade? Probably not. That's not very much magnitude at all. 40 cents. Maybe that might be worth a scalp actually. If just because of sentiment and you can load up on contracts. You don't need a whole lot of movement to make a good amount of money if you got multiple contracts. With the sentiment, does this magnitude then trigger the day? Again, it's a 2 up, 2 up, so there's no like magnitude. There's not a magnitude. It's just targets. But it could be something to think about. On the downside, if we reach that 2676, now we're into another strat to the downside, another reversal to the downside, which does actually have a magnitude, not just a target. So then, maybe if we do a lower high around 2676, or at least underneath the opening print, and we go ahead and target the low for the 2 up, 2 down on the day. That's something we got to keep in mind. Again, we'll just watch how price action moves in the morning. We'll look at internals, vol D, vol QD, ADQD, and tick Q. We'll make sure that those are heading. If they're showing bearish signals, then maybe we take the put. It's something to think about. We 7 weeks in a row to that are green. Are we in store for a pullback? Again, I'm not calling for it, but it's something we want to be ready for. And being ready for it doesn't mean like, oh, okay, we expected it might pull back, but okay, it's pulling back. It made this trigger. Let's go ahead and get in for this target. That type of being ready, right? We want to be ready to make money. So at least I do. Again, I'm not telling you how to trade. This is just how I'm looking at things. Again, on the day with the 2 up, 2 up, it's not like a reversal strat, so there's no magnitude. We just have higher triggers. But again, sentiment is pretty bullish, so it's something to think about. If we get to 28.46, we're going 2 up on the week again. So not only are we green, but we're higher than the previous week. So maybe we target that 30.55 level. Keep in mind it's the end of seasonality for tech, so is it possible we get the 2 down? If we go below 24.91, all right, let's maybe get something, expecting to go to 23.50. 24.62 isn't that far to go. If it does do it, hey, it completes the strat and it does its job. It could be ready to go back up at that point. But if it wants to go a little bit further, maybe we get that move to 23.50. Right? That's last month's low as well. Not last month's low. Last year's low, 23.50. So we may pull back to that level to get a bounce. Right? Let's go back to the chart. You see this 23.50 level. That is this is why I make the charts the way I make them. Knowing that it's a small dash line and not a bigger dash line like this, right? That I know that this is the bottom of something, right? And since it's white, I know it's the bottom of last year. So if we zoom out and we take a look, that line, remember that 23.50, look, there it is, 0%. So it's the high, and this, you see this line, this dash line takes us all the way up to this 100%. So this is the high last year, and this is the low last year. So I know that if I'm in here on any time frame, really, if I'm in here and I'm looking at a possible pullback point, and I see last year's low, that's a pretty strong. That's a pretty strong bounce point. That's a pretty strong point of support. That if the bulls are going to hold support, I would guess it would be right there. So, um, do we get the pullback to that point? That would give us the combo 2 up, 2 down on the week, pull us back below this weekly broadening formation, back below this monthly downtrend line, back with inside of last quarter and last month, right? So here's last month's 50%. Do we close this gap and test that? I don't know that we would go all the way down to last quarter's 50%, possibly though. That's last month's low. So we got a lot of horizontal levels that are lining up to give us a plan, right? So just coming back in here, looking at the week. Let's move these daily broadenings. You can see where we stand. Below this, look at all this action right here, chop and sideways action. That's what we're coming into. So patience is really the game right now. I know you probably don't want to hear it if you want to make quick money. If you do want to make quick money, then you need to up your game on scalping and day trading. But if you're a swing trader that's looking to make if you're a swing trader, you made fast money right there, even as a swing trader. You made fast money right there, even as a swing trader. I know, because I'm in those swings, right? So if you're looking for that, I wouldn't suggest looking for it right now. Let's look at maybe doing some credit spreads. Get some money for some sideways action. Sell calls. If you think that we're just gonna range, sell calls. Especially if we get to the top of this range and reject down, sell calls. But you got to think of different ways to make money other than just buying something for 3 months and letting it cook up and selling after a month or selling after 2 months with great profit, right? So patience is the game right now. We've got our levels mapped out, right? We've got our triggers. If you want more in-depth information about how we set these levels, check out I don't remember the exact video that it is, but I think it's setting precision levels is the name of the video. But go into our video history and you'll see our chart, our videos for setting up charts and setting up targets for the next day's trading. So again, patience is going to be the key, but we're still in a bullish position, especially from a weekly perspective, even monthly perspective. If we look at the month, we want to make sure we're always zooming out. We look at the month, 3 green months in a row that are pretty solid. It's looking good. We're back up into the range of this 3. Like I've said before, once you breach one side of the 3 and you come back into the 3, the goal is to breach the other side of the 3. And a lot of times that's what price action does. Got a gap right here, weekly broadening, monthly broadening. Who's to say we don't go to 40, 45 before a pullback? Right? Seasonality could be out the window. Who cares about seasonality if earnings are right, if certain geopolitical things are happening in certain ways? We can continue this push. We've seen it before. So that's what we're looking for this week and on Monday. I hope everybody was able to get some good information from this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. We post videos every day. On the weekends, we only post one video. We got to get one day off, but we post nightly videos throughout the week. Follow us on X, where you can get real-time updates on our entries and exits in not only scalps and day trades, but swing trades as well. Like I said, hit the like button. So go ahead and subscribe. If you got any comments you'd like to leave in there, if they're respectful, go ahead and leave them in there. I'm always open to any constructive criticism, or if there's things that you like but maybe want me to move a little bit slower on, let me know as well. But my goal is just to create a community of folks that can profit from a ticker that gives a great risk to reward and a lot of bang for your buck, right? So if we can make money off of that every day, Of course, we've got other investments as well, but if we can have a consistent way to make money every day for a reasonable price, that's what I want to do, and just build a community of folks that want to do that as well. So, good luck trading on Monday and throughout the week. Make sure you get some good rest tonight. That way you can wake up refreshed and ready before the bell. And hope everybody has a good weekend, rest of their weekend.